Welcome to the DePIN State presented by Eclipse. I am Nick Hawks. On today's episode, we have Andy Chatham from DIMO. This episode is sponsored by Eclipse Builders. If you're pushing limits of what's possible on chain, you should build your own rollup with Eclipse. We'll have a little bit more on them later in the show. Before we get started, remember to hit the like and subscribe button. This alerts you to when the next episode drops and helps us keep bringing great guests like Andy on. Andy, welcome to the show, dog.
What's up, Nick?
Super psyched to have you here. You guys have some exciting news. Let's dig in and talk about error codes. What's going on with those?
We just pushed an update to the mobile app that actually is one of the features that I've been most excited about since the beginning. And it allows you to read what's called the PCC code from your car, which means diagnostic trouble code. And most people know of this as the check engine light. When your check engine light turns on, there's a million different reasons that can happen. And our device, which most people watching the show probably know about, to read that error code. The difference is between most of the off-the-shelf PCC Code Readers is that this one's connected to the internet, has a great mobile app with it, and we built a feature to help you diagnose those codes and figure out what to do next.
Cool. So kind of is one of the neat things is that really like the promise of DePIN is coming true, is that it's going to be better and better than something that you can buy off the shelf. And this thing is kind of in your car already, earning DIMO and able to do this pretty new and rad thing.
Yeah. And we're plugging it in. One of the things that we wanted to have in place first was, okay, I got this error code. Now what do I do? And so we're able to recommend partners that you can use in your area. There's more and more coming online. And those are people that will actually be able to solve your problem. And by going and spending money with these mechanic services, you'll be able to actually earn more rewards, which is part of how this all works. And so it's a feature that as more people scan error codes, we start to notice patterns between specific cars. We can make the recommendations a lot better. And we can also start to pass that data to local mechanics and make a recommendation around, here's what we think you should do next. How much is this going to cost? Whether it's dangerous to keep driving, all of those kind of nuanced things that can vary. There's billions of different combinations between a GM vehicle and thousands of error codes out there, and obviously every other make, model, year as well.
Dang, it's a pretty big deal to have this functionality with the device now.
Yeah, it's one of those things that is an existing use case, and we think that we're able to take a much more comprehensive approach towards it, and it's going to continue to get better and better over time. One of the things that is also not immediately obvious is that this is one of the first AI-powered features on DIMO, so we're actually getting responses to the error codes. We're basically compiling and sending it in to the OpenAI API. And the response that you get back is, for your specific car, they've obviously gone and indexed all of the car manuals and, mechanic instruction books out there. And from our testing so far, they're highly accurate and also much more comprehensive than what you might get from another error code reader. And we're also pairing that with here's the next step that you can take, whether it's, using Ranch or Vehicle Genius or another service to solve your own problem.
Super, super cool. I'm psyched for that. Let's see. Let's talk a little bit about growth. We got, 750 new users a week. Can you give me a general breakdown between kind of new devices and then Teslas that are just plugging in and using the app?
Yeah, so it's been about 50-50. I mean, different weeks will be, different rates of growth. Obviously, we've been averaging about 5% a week, which is, typically what we try to target. There's not a lot of control we have over that, but that's a nice healthy point where too much is breaking, and also we're able to deliver a really good experience to people that join. So the hardware devices, all this data is on chain. I'll send you guys the link so people can look it up. That's one of the coolest parts about DIMO is you can see new cars joining the network. And one of the things that we've noticed is as more fleets come online, we'll see a specific OEM shoot up. And so we had a bunch of BMWs join the network, a bunch of Volvos, and people are kind of competing for that second and third spot behind Tesla. And yeah, we crossed over 4,400 Teslas in the network and are building an absolutely killer data set of what those vehicles are doing out in the real world, and are able to start packaging up some of those insights and deliver them back to consumers of the data who are building apps.
Got it. Okay. And then will other cars with apps be able to use DIMO too, or is that just specific to Tesla?
Yeah, so about 90% of new cars that come off the line today are compatible with DIMO software only. So if you have a newer car that has an app, you're paying for the subscription, we can't promise 100% coverage. And obviously the hardware is always there as a backup. But for the most part, a large percentage of new cars are compatible, and we're seeing more and more of them come online in software only, which was something that we're excited about. Lowers the barrier to entry and gets more people using the services on the network.
Yeah, it's rad. It's rad. Let's see. Let's shift a little bit and we'll talk about governance. I just saw the DIMO Ignite announcement. Do you want to walk me through kind of what you guys are pumped on there and what that's going to do for you?
Yeah. So a bunch of proposals just passed. We, now that we have governance stood up, all the token holders are able to vote, and we have a lot of good ideas and some of the best ones at the beginning, where we want to allocate more resources to having more people build on the network. And so we're able to carve out tokens about $2 million worth and have those available to people that want to build. So we come up with a list of about 10 different sort of RFP type of ideas that people can propose against. Things like, we want trip tracking, we want better plugins to the insurance market, we want people to help decoding cars, so like very obvious things that we know about. And then there's this sort of catch-all category for crazy ideas that we didn't expect that people would come up with, and so we've already had some of those come in. We just announced it earlier today, but people are proposing all kinds of stuff, from, we want to create like a road trip quest game, or Uniswap for cars, like all these other ideas that we're going to be able to pick off over the next couple of years and get people resources to start building on the network. And this is just all part of making the grand vision behind DIMO come true, and making it so that there's multiple different ways to access the network, lots of stuff to do when you get there, and ways for businesses and fleets and regular drivers to make more money and solve their problems.
Love it. I see your face lighting up as you're talking about these. Is there one that you're most excited about?
I think we're going to get people making some cool games and social apps, and it might not emerge immediately because there's like not a well-defined business case for it, but we've seen some really cool ideas. And especially as we get more of the developer tooling built out, like that's going to be a little bit of a limiting factor on some of these ideas, but we wanted to open it up early because when people reach out and they're really excited about something and they're qualified to build it, we can move stuff around on the roadmap and kind of help them succeed earlier than they might otherwise be able to. So yeah, a lot of this stuff is going to take years to develop, but there's some really cool stuff that I think we've kind of already started down the path on. Whether it's people on the core team saying like, this is a really good idea, but we're working on the protocol and the infrastructure, so we can't go build like the most amazing trip tracker or fuel tracking app, or a bunch of other ones that I won't give away the secrets on. But there's a ton of cool stuff coming on the games and enthusiast side of things. And then like I said, with error codes, like starting to take the data that's in DIMO and combine it with a lot of the AI tooling that's coming out is like a real like mind-blowing experience when you start to see that the real limiting factor I think people experience when they're interacting with these chatbots or some new AI powered service is that it's not aware of the real world and like the current state of things in the real world. And we have one of the most important categories of real world assets that people care about hooked up to DIMO, so that makes all of these other AI tools much more powerful. And I think people are just starting to figure out what you can do with that.
Dang, super exciting.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a quick ad break. We'll come back to this in a second. One of the super cool parts about doing this show is that we get to talk to tons of people and projects across the space, including back-end nerdy stuff that helps deepen projects. One of those is today's show sponsor, Eclipse Builders. They are a customizable roll-up provider deploying app-specific chains for several deepen projects. They allow you to pick your virtual machine, your base layer, and additional customizations to enable new functionality for your DApp. And you guys should check them out. Eclipse is committed to helping projects build on DePIN. So projects just like yours, you can find them at eclipse.builders and click the card above for a link to an interview that we did with them if you haven't seen it yet. Ripping. Let's get back to this thing. I saw also that CoinList just did an article about DIMO. Where do you think, I guess if we zoom out, where do you think kind of DePIN is as far as stage goes? They mentioned, CoinList mentioned DIMO in the article. So obviously these bigger projects are paying attention to what's going on. Where do you see both DePIN and DIMO specifically in growth stage?
For us right now, it's all about empowering developers and iterating on what already exists to get to that point where it clicks for the person. I would consider most people who are on DIMO today to be very early adopters, and especially with error codes and like vehicle valuation and some of the apps that are starting to emerge on the platform, we're making the value and the use case very clear to the average person without needing to explain anything crypto, which is amazing because that opens up the audience to a huge amount of people and also allows them to kind of experience the benefits of an open, credibly neutral platform that any developer can come and build on. Things just start like magically getting better around them, and don't, eventually people will start to ask, why is that happening with this, product that I'm using versus, some other, connected car app or OEMs, connected vehicle service. And I think that that's starting to happen, and people are starting to realize that there's a very clear path between where we are today and millions of people being able to benefit from something like this in their daily lives. And so that's really cool. And, another thing that I think it's really going to take to cross the chasm, for us at least, like I spend all day thinking about DIMO, so I don't have a lot to say about other projects, but, the thing that's very clear to me is that empowering developers and existing enterprise users and businesses to make more money on DIMO and get access directly to customers is something that they're really hungry for. So we're having this experience where people are showing up and they're like, oh, there's this API that gives me access to real-time data from 17,000 cars and it's growing at 20% a month. So like there's basically free customer acquisition for me happening because of the growth of this network, and something that I can't get anywhere else, whether I'm replacing people's tires on their car or selling some kind of accessory. Like all of those folks are starting to kind of pick up on the potential for a network like this. And there's been a lot of gatekeepers and folks that are sort of preventing anybody from building something like this before. So it takes a little bit of education, but once you have some examples, then snowball starts to roll, and that's something that we're starting to see, which is cool.
Super cool. Let's finish up with kind of a little bit more future stuff. As far as like what else is planned, are we going to see kind of a Web3 Turo coming out of DIMO, or what's going on there?
Yeah, that was one of the use cases that I was, I think we're not far from that happening. We certainly have a lot of folks who are using the telematics that we provide out of the box from DIMO to manage their Turo fleet today. So there's definitely a short hop from that to building an app that maybe allows you to do like actual peer-to-peer car sharing without Turo taking 30% or whatever it is they take from renters. And so those kind of like very thin software layers on top of these existing services are things that we get really excited about, because the take rates of these marketplaces like Uber and Turo, a lot of these like Web2, peer-to-peer marketplaces are just an opportunity for us. And so we're adding the developer tools that are going to make it very easy for somebody to show up and create an app and a service like that with a tenth of the cost and the effort. And then they'll be able to focus on delivering a more competitive price to users, getting more supply on the network. And that's something that is going to take time to develop, but we certainly have people that are thinking in that direction today, and we're listening to them and building tools that make it a lot easier for them to do what they want to do.
Right on. Super good to see you guys leading the charge, and rocking there. Andy, thanks a ton for coming on. We'll have to catch up the next time you guys have big news.
Sounds good. Later, guys.
Super cool. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already, and we will catch you on the next show. We're out.